Hello, Top Fan Rivalry friends. It is Bill and Scott. Yes, it is Monday. That means we're doing a Dodger update. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing my screen is different. I got Dodger Stadium. If you're listening to this on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, then you don't see it, but just trust me that it's there. What's going on, Scotty? Let's talk some Dodgers baseball, huh?
I am always happy to talk Dodgers baseball, and especially with you.
Yeah,
So
I
let's do it.
likewise, brother. Likewise. It's always a good time to talk some Dodgers baseball, and it's always a good thing to be able to just kind of walk it through. Okay,
Yep.
so for those people listening on Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, um, we are kind of running slim on spring training, right? And so spring
Yep.
training is wrapping itself up. Um, Dodgers are going to start in Japan, but before we get into that, we've got to do something special, Scotty. So
Okay.
this is a Top End Rivalry is a small business. We appreciate our sponsors. We want to mention Josh over at Drunken Gentleman Clothing Apparel, great dude. Ned over at Ruby's Diner in Laguna Beach. I was over there this last weekend. We had a great time. We're actually going to do another event over there, Scott. I need to let you know when that is, so you might be able to
Yeah.
sneak us
Yeah.
in.
I got to get down to one of those. That's one of the hard things about moving up to Utah was all the fun that happens down in Southern California, especially once we get to spring.
Exactly. And the other ones is everybody says America runs on Duncan, but the Inland Empire runs on Duncan. So we want to thank Andrea and Josh. I'm sorry, yeah, Andrea and Jordan and Jeff and everything that they've done for us by their sponsorship. They've got locations in Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, Upland, the Ontario Airport, Colton, and then they've got a second one coming in Colton. So they're doing great over there in the Inland Empire. So we just thank them for that. So Scott, let's get this started with the Dodgers schedule. Okay, so I'm going to read to you some of the schedule here.
Okay.
We know that the Dodgers will be playing a regular season game on March 18th in Tokyo, Japan, and then March 19th in Tokyo, Japan against the Cubs.
Yep.
And then they have, with that's a Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off. And then they come home to play the Angels at home on Sunday the 23rd, and then Monday the 24th, and Tuesday the 25th for games that don't matter. And
Right.
then we get back into playing against the Tigers. So,
Right.
Scotty, talk to me about this.
Well, I mean, first of all, that's a week away. Like that's a week from tomorrow from
Yes,
that they're playing at 3 a.m. Pacific time.
yes.
Um, so that is a week away. That's less than a week away, actually, technically. And those games count, which
Mhm.
is crazy to me. Here's what's else is crazy. What is there going to be a Cubs fan in the crowd? Yeah, they're the home team for
Well,
the two
Sasaki or
games.
Suzuki, the boy
Like,
in right field.
okay, so there'll be some Cubby fans. That's right. So there'll be
Yeah.
some Cubby, but I gotta believe it's going to be overwhelming Dodger fans
Oh,
at that game. And
Shohei, Sasaki,
yeah,
Yamamoto.
yeah. So the Cubs are the home team, which I mean, it's going to feel like a Dodger home game, other than Cubbies will get the last at bat. So that whole thing's just kind of squirrely to me, and I get why they're going over there. I don't understand why the scheduling, why they had to go over that early. I'm not quite, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, I guess you have that Angels Dodgers that they love to have because it's the crosstown rivalry that they always do every year right before the season starts. Spring training at home in Southern California. But I just the scheduling feels weird, and then the season actually starting on opening day, starting on March 27th, feels a little weird too. That we're 4 days from April, and we are starting games that
Yeah.
count. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's kind of squirrely, and like I said, I guess you kind of understand, and they had to go to Japan. I know they went to Korea last year. You and I talked about this offline before the show. I know they went to Korea last year too, and Now they're going to Japan, and we know why, because they've got three of the biggest stars from Japan on the team, and uh, you get that. But it just, I don't know, the timing just seems weird. It's luckily it is baseball, and you don't want to say a game early doesn't count, but it just always feels like a game early if you don't win a couple early. But I don't know. I just it's weird, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that we're a week away from games that count. That's
Yeah,
just weird to me.
yeah. Well, and see,
So
and here's my problem, Scott, is the Dodgers are gonna they leave, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pulling this thing up. So if I'm not mistaken, they play tomorrow, right? And then they play Thursday.
yeah,
But that's a prospects game. That's the Cubs and um that's the Cubs and the Dodgers prospects. So
right.
literally their last spring training game in Arizona is tomorrow because this
That is
weekend,
wild.
yeah, this weekend they play in Tokyo. They have two exhibition games on Saturday. And so it's
Wow.
absolutely crazy insane. I mean, you're cutting tremendous amount of time out, and I'm not complaining. I get it's an international sport,
Right.
but you're cutting some of these teams don't start. The Tigers don't have a their first game of the season is the 27th.
Right.
The Dodgers is the 18th, and they've got to fly halfway across the world,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I get, like you said, I get what the MLB is doing. I get it's an international game. I get they're trying to grow it even more internationally. I don't know. It just and then you throw on top of it that the Dodgers played more games than anyone else in the National League last year, right?
mhm,
Because they won the World Series. I mean, you can't complain because they won the World Series, but
mhm,
they're heading into the season already having played longer than anyone else other than the Yankees.
mhm, exactly, exactly. And so where
And
it get
look, like I mean, at least I will say this: I am actually kind of feeling better now as we're talking through this about them having the three games against the Angels before the season, the rest of the season starts. Like you got to get those two games that count, and then you get three that don't. Just because it's gonna, I mean, that long of a flight, that kind of trip, everything that's going on around that, man, they're gonna need those three games just to kind of get back in a regular rhythm.
so yeah, and so here's what's the tough part, right? And I've been complaining about this on with anybody to listen to me, Scotty. So they play
You know
the
I
the
will.
18th and 19th, which is the Tuesday and Wednesday in Japan, right?
Right.
Then they fly home and they play Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay.
Yep.
Then they start the regular season and they play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And get this, then they get Sunday off. They get Sunday
What?
off. So they host the Tigers and then they get Sunday off. Then they play the Braves Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then they get Thursday off to fly to Philadelphia. So at what point are you going to get in that competitive juices, everything flowing mentality? You don't. And
No.
the
Man,
first
that is weird.
the first three series that they play outside of the Cubs, right? That Cubs series is what it is. But the first three series that they play, Scott, are against the Tigers, the Braves, and then the Phillies. All three teams that made the playoffs last season.
Right.
So you're not giving the Dodgers teams that are rebuilding like the
Wow.
Rockies or Miami Marlins. It's and then they go on that East Coast road trip and it's Philly, Washington, and then they come home to play the Cubs again.
Wow.
So it's weird to me.
That's kind of, man, that's a rough, I hadn't thought about it from that standpoint, but looking at it now on paper too, as I'm looking at their schedule on
Mhm.
their website, man, I mean, they don't really have a breathing spot till April 14th against the
Yeah.
Rockies. Man, why do they always play the Rockies on Jackie Robinson Day? Why can't they play somebody
I
good
don't
on the Jackie Robinson Day?
I do not know, but I will say this. I do not know, but I will say, to me, the frustrating part of all this is I get the Dodgers won the World Series. I get that they have a lot of Japanese players,
Right.
but they played an international series last year.
Last year.
This is a lot for a team that won the World Series. Again, this is an embarrassment of riches. I can't
Right.
argue, but they won the
Right.
World Series, like you had mentioned. They played more teams than anybody in the National League. They have a shortened spring training, and now you get all kinds of funky situations. Now, each team has a Sunday/Thursday off at some point in their
Right.
schedule, which I think is ludicrous, but whatever.
Yeah, that's weird.
Um, but yeah, no, I'm honestly don't know
It's
what to
just
do.
yeah, it's just weird. It's very weird. It's very
Yeah.
strange. Well, look, I'm looking down the schedule. They play the Cubs again at Chicago at Wrigley in the end of April, 22nd, 23rd.
Hmm.
So they play
Yep.
seven games against the Cubs in the first month
Yep.
of the
Yep.
season.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And I'm not understanding what the draw is there. I know that Suzuki, the right fielder for the Cubs,
Right.
that loves Mike Trout and wears number 27. I get that. I get that that's a little bit of a draw, but and the issue that I have too is the Yankees and Red Sox are arguably baseball's biggest rivalry, right?
Right.
Followed behind the Dodgers Giants. The
Right.
Dodgers and Giants don't play each other until June 13th.
Yeah, I was just seeing that. Well, and then they don't play him again for a month after that till July. And then I
Give
think
up.
aren't you the one? Aren't you? I'm pretty sure you're the one who told me that in the last month they play the Giants like seven times to
Yeah.
finish. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then they finished six straight road games to finish the season
Yeah.
at D-backs at Mariners.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you've got things sewn up by then, but
Yeah, but
D-backs are in my opinion going to be our biggest competitor in the division.
well, exactly. And you could be sitting there looking at those last three games, or those last six games, I should say, as whether or not you have home field advantage, right? Maybe
Right.
you've wrapped it up by now, but maybe Philadelphia or New York or Atlanta or somebody else has had a really, really
Yeah.
good season, and the Dodgers, knock on wood, have hit the injury bug or whatever, and they've got 95 wins, and they've got to win those games to get the home field advantage. Yet they can't do it, or I mean, yet they're
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's wild. That is, man, that's wild. Looking at that,
Preach.
I hadn't taken the time to break down their
Yeah.
schedule, but man,
It's crazy.
that's
It's
wild.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that is
And it's yeah.
schedule
Anyways,
maker had a well, and we're not, we're I mean, all the Dodger fans will be on board with this, but everyone else will be like, oh, it doesn't matter. You're signing
got a
everybody
90-man
anyway.
rotation. I know, I get it.
Like, did you see that? Did you see the meme the other day? It was an old picture of Kramer and George Costanza in Dodger uniforms. It said, "Breaking news: Dodgers signed two more stars." It's
I
just,
I
I
did
mean,
not see
it's.
that, but yeah.
I'll find it
Yeah,
and send it to you. It's pretty
George
good.
can't stand you, right? I
Yeah,
just watched
George
that
can't
episode the
stand
other
you. Is
day.
right,
George can't stand you.
man.
Um,
I just am baffled at this scheduling. It just boggles my mind what they're doing.
it mine too, Scott. Mine too. When I went through that scheduling, I looked at it and I thought, this doesn't do anybody any favors.
No,
I'm
no,
not understanding. It really is almost like um it's almost like they're making it harder for
yeah,
teams that are better, right?
yeah.
But I
I
mean,
mean, I guess
again,
Pirates aren't great. The Marlins are the Marlins.
mhm,
Who knows about the A's and the Angels? They're such wild cards to me every year.
yeah,
Guardians are a good. I mean, then you got Mets are a good team. Guardians are a good team. Yankees good team. Mets again. Cardinals always play us tough. Padres always play us tough.
mhm.
And then you start with the Giants. I mean, man, you look at their schedule. I mean, at least we get a reprieve in first over the just before the 4th of July, we get to play the White Sox. So, oh my gosh, I feel bad for White Sox fans.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a couple of conversations with White Sox fans recently, and these guys can literally win 20 more games than they did last season and still lose 100 games.
Yeah, I know. It's wild how terrible they were last year. Absolutely wild.
Yeah. It's not good for baseball. Let's
No,
just call
no,
that.
it's you want look, we don't want teams that are that bad. Look
Mhm.
at um you just you want more parity than that. You want it to be um you just want it to be more parity than that. You want teams to be doing man, I feel like I'm on the video here. Whoever's just listening can't see there. That's better. My lighting's terrible. I'm in the wrong room apparently, and I'm getting all kinds of weird things, and it's driving me nuts. That's the vanity in me, I guess. I don't know.
There you
So
go.
hopefully you're just listening. So you're like, what is he talking about? But
So
it just sports just feel better when all the teams feel like they have a chance to win every day, week
mhm.
in, week out, and it just I feel like it hurts when teams are that bad and their ownership don't want to spend any of the money to do the things that you got to do to stay competitive.
Mhm. So not that schedule or not that uh and we'll get back to the Dodgers in a second, everybody. You have to know that when Scott and I talk, sometimes we're going to ramble on, but
Yeah,
enjoy Dodgers update. Um,
yeah,
okay, so if not that standings matter, but the White Sox, if you just took their 16 games and you times it out, if you times it out by 10,
right.
right, and added a couple of games in there, the White Sox would be 51 and 111, which is better. That's 10 games better than what they did
Right.
last year. But oh my,
Yeah, that's not good for baseball. It's not good for a sport when a team is that feeble for any and even a season it's terrible, but to go into a second season and be that bad still, it's
yeah,
I don't know.
yep, no, I agree.
Maybe they're trying to lose fans so they can move them out of town. I don't know.
Trying to move to my what is this Major League?
Yeah, seriously.
If
Seriously.
it falls down below a certain level, we can move the
We
team
can
to
sell the team out
Miami.
of the city. Yeah, we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although being in
It,
Utah, come on, we'll take an MLB team. We'd take one here.
yeah,
The Salt Lake Bees are okay. The good thing for me is the Bees are moving closer, so I'll be able to go some AAA baseball. They're literally going to be like 3 miles from my house is all this season, so they're
yes,
moving the
and
stadium.
I
So I'm going
like
to be at a lot of minor league games here in Utah, but I'm going to make it down for some Dodger games, which is what we're really supposed to be talking about. So, how you like that segue?
yes, sir. Segue. So let's go back to the standings. The Dodgers started off a little slow. Currently, they're at 11 and 8. Again, who cares, right?
Yeah,
They got one more they won today. They got one more spring training game tomorrow before it's the prospects game and they go to Japan. Who cares? But they finished the spring training out with a winning record. Um,
yeah.
thoughts on I mean the Giants are 11 and 3, but thoughts on all of this when it comes to yeah.
Look, I've said this on here before, and I stand firm on it. The preseason in all the sports and spring training, I think especially for me, is not so much a litmus test because you don't know what each manager's trying to figure out and find and see and what they're doing. Guys coming back from injury, and I try not to look at records. I don't worry too much about batting averages and any of the real numbers. It's just I kind of, for me, spring training is about the eyeball test as a fan, and I feel like the
Yes.
Dodgers are looking pretty good going in. You had Yamamoto throw a pretty good game in his last start, uh, and I just they to me they passed the eyeball test, and you're looking at guys that are on the injured list as I'm going down that will be getting back at some point through the season. Um, in varying level, some guys as early as any day now, like Bobby Miller, um, to all the way guys that won't be there this year. But then you got Kershaw should be back in June. And I'll be interested to see what they do with him. And I guess part of that will depend on what's going on with the rest of the team at the
Right.
time, who's pitching well, if anyone's not, or what injuries we may be living with. But yeah, I mean, I saw Gavin Stone's going to be out, looks like now till 2026. So we can't count on him at all this season. And, it's shaping up. And look, it's what we talked about, Bill. That's why the abundance of riches matters for the Dodgers. We're already seeing guys that we're not going to see this year that we were hoping to. So it's good that we went out and made a couple moves.
Um, yeah, again, like you said, Gavin Stone, all these guys. And when they announced, hey, Tyler Glass now is not he's got a couple injuries and stuff like that, like you said, Bears and riches. Don't
Right.
even care.
Right.
We got plenty of guys. Shohei's going to throw 100 innings. Clayton's probably going to throw 100 innings. We're going to call it a day, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, okay.
Yep. And look, you and I both talked about this too. We both know that the most important thing is that your guys are rounded into shape as the postseason approaches, because we limped into the playoffs as the 1 seed before and lost in the first round in the divisional round. So
Yeah,
you want to make sure you got guys rounded into form at the right time. And when you have
yeah,
an abundance of riches like the Dodgers do, that hopefully gives them some options as we approach October, and they can say, they know for a fact who their starting 4 or starting 5 are going to be.
yeah, exactly. Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin will probably step up.
Yeah.
Um, okay, before we get into rotations and stats and talking through that, uh, again, we want to thank Drunken Gentlemen Clothing Apparel for their sponsorship. We want to thank Dunkin' Donuts in the Inland Empire. Andrew does a great job over there. We're grateful for Jordan and Jeff and all the guys over there, Josh, and everything that they do. We also want to thank the Ruby in Laguna Beach. So we're grateful for our sponsorships. They're the ones that keep these shows going. We're going to continue to go forward with these shows because of them. Scott, I have it on good authority that we've got 4 or 5 new ones coming up for the April
Awesome.
event. So it's going to be absolutely awesome.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
so I'm looking forward to that and seeing how that plays itself out. Okay, let's talk rotation. So
Okay.
again, we know where the Dodgers are at as far as spring training. Um, Roki Sasaki had an absolute crazy, crazy, crazy start. And when people are looking at this guy, they're looking at him and seeing that splitter, and it's probably going to be one of the best that we've seen. But let's talk before I talk statistics. Let's talk rotation. You're Dave Roberts. You're in the
Yeah.
dugout. Assume everybody's healthy, or
Okay.
assume to the most part everybody's healthy.
Okay.
Who are your starting 5, or do you go with the 6-man rotation?
Honestly, I think through the season, if I'm Dave, I go with the 6-man rotation as much as I can. And part of the reason I would do that is it gives you an opportunity to see an extra guy throughout the year and know, as like I said, there's 2 seasons. There's the regular season and there's the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
We're fairly certain, nothing's ever certain, but we're fairly certain the Dodgers will at least be in the postseason in some shape or fashion with the lineup they have, even if some injuries happen. So Dave Roberts, as manager, part of your job is giving you enough information so that when you go to say, okay, this is who my starting rotation is going to be. So I think I go with a 6-man if I can.
Okay.
And yeah, I just think that it gives you the opportunity, and you can move a few guys in and out of there. I know Yamamoto usually had an extra day of rest last year anyway. So why not just build that in so everybody's got that extra day this season? And who knows, maybe that helps you be a little more fresh for the postseason.
Yeah.
So that's my
Um,
thoughts on that.
I like that idea. I would probably, like I said, I alluded to it. I'd probably let Clayton when he comes back throw 100 innings max. Shohei
Yep.
throw 100 innings
Yep.
max. Um, probably look at Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin
Yep. Yep.
to make up some slack. But my core would be Sasaki, would be Roki, would be Yamamoto, would be Glassdown, and would be Blake Snell.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to intermingle Dustin May in there. I'm going to intermingle Tony Gonsolin in there. I'm going to intermingle Clayton. I'm going to intermingle Shohei. Now,
Yep.
don't at me, Dodger fans, for saying that I don't want Shohei to pitch more. I do, but I want him to pitch more in 2026.
Yes. Let's not rush him as the pitcher back. Let's slow play that one. And that's he's so good that you want him, but like you said, that you need to look long term, especially with the contract they gave him. You can't just
100%.
say, it's not like he's on a 1 year deal and he's done this
Mhm.
year, and you just ride the horse, put him away wet. It's it's let's slow play this. I like your thought. Let's go 100 innings. And look, the great thing about Shohei is that he doesn't take up a pitcher roster spot, even if you start him as a pitcher, because he's the DH. So he takes up a position player spot. And so that's another reason for me. I think going with the 6-man rotation is a good idea because you already got an extra spot or an extra guy that slips in there that isn't taking up a pitcher spot. And so that gives you the opportunity again to see. And so when we come down to middle of September and we're approaching the playoffs, you can see who your horses are. Who your guys you are going to be able to lean on a little more in the postseason. So let's
So now let's talk. Here's something that I think you're going to find very interesting.
okay.
The Dodgers have three, count them, 1, 2, 3 closers.
Yeah.
Tanner Scott, they have Kirby Yates, and they have Blake Treinen. Three closers. Now,
Yeah.
not to mention Alex Vesia, not to mention Brusar Gratterall.
Right.
The Dodgers are going to be a force to be reckoned with. If their starters can go out and get you 18 outs a game,
Yeah.
get you 6 innings, it's going to be really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And especially if they get you that with a lead, it's going to be really hard to have you back out.
Yeah,
Tell
I
me I'm wrong,
agree.
Scotty.
No, I think you're right. And again, abundance of riches, it's a great problem to have. But I'm with you. I think that regular season, if you can get 5+ out of every starter, the other teams are going to have a hard time coming back because you can with those three guys too. And like you said, not just those three, you've got several other guys in that bullpen that probably could play
Yep.
fit and be in that role somewhere.
Right.
But
Michael Kopech.
you can move those guys around and situationally, and you especially as you get into the middle of the season and who's hitting different pitches better, you can and worse, and you can get the right guy in there. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
again, abundance is a riches. Speaking of those guys too, did you see? And if you haven't, I got to send you this one too. Did you see the side by side Blake Treinen throwing his slider and his two seamer, and it halfway to the plate, the ball is in the same spot, and by the time the catcher's catching it, it is 22 inches to the right or 21 inches to the left.
Yeah.
Good luck if he's on, because
Yeah.
you can't tell the difference on that.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! But I
No,
I'm
I saw
for
it
the
and I
first
just thought,
time in a long time, I am 100% satisfied with who we've got in our bullpen.
I agree with you.
Especially as you start going into start thinking again into the season, postseason, assuming everyone's healthy. Some of those guys that'll be potential long relievers or spot guys, to get you 2 or 3 outs, that could be starting for any team in the MLB. So
I completely agree with you. And to be honest with you, Scott, I think you've already mentioned this before, but again, with so much depth, and that's not to say that. What about Emmett Sheehan? What about Landon Knack? Landon Knack proved himself
right,
in Miami last year. He proved himself in the playoffs last year.
yeah,
So you don't have, when I look at other rosters, you don't have that pressure. So, okay, all right.
Right.
So Roki goes out there and he gives up a couple of bombs. The next thing you know, you're down 3-0. Okay, so he didn't have the best start, but the Dodgers
Hmm.
had the lineup to score 3 runs.
Right.
To beat this team, you're going to need to score typically 2 runs, maybe 3 runs. 3 runs
Right.
typically will get you a win. To beat this team, you're gonna have to score 4 or 5 runs.
Yeah. I think you're right most of the time. You'll have your weird ones here and there where the Dodgers bats are all ice cold, but yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to be looking at scoring a run in half the innings,
Yeah,
plus to win games. And it's man, I mean, look at their bench
yeah.
that they're listing. Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor. Those three guys would probably start on just about any other
Most
team they were on.
teams. Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
maybe probably not every single one at their position because of who's there, but most teams they're going to be starting, and the same thing with you start talking about the pitchers and we just talked about the closers. I mean, the depth that they have, especially if they can stay healthy and be healthy, and that's probably the better way to say it. To get healthy and be healthy as we get into the stretch run and into the playoffs
Yeah.
because that's when you're going to have injuries. Everybody does, and you're going to have some guys, spend some time. But hey, that's the other thing with this
Mhm.
roster. You have the luxury. You can use that injured list to your advantage.
The only thing, Scott, the only thing that concerns me right now, I shouldn't say the only thing, but a major concern that I have is you look at these players. So, for example, Michael Conforto is probably going to start in left.
Yeah,
Tommy Edmonds is probably going to start in center. Um, and then Teo Hernandez is going to start.
and right.
Okay, that means that Chris Taylor, Andy Paez, Kiki Hernandez are all not in the lineup, right?
Hmm.
And so that being said, as well as Miguel Rojas and others. That being said, Hong Sung Kim, just depends.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing that concerns me is whether or not the players push too hard because they don't want to lose their starting position.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I can see
And,
that.
and
Um,
so, I mean, stop and think about it, right? If you're Max Muncy, who will give you 30 home runs, but he's going to hit you at 218. Well, when
right.
he's in that dip of hitting
Yeah,
172, well, you got guys on the bench that can like how far do you let it go? Now,
yeah,
if the Dodgers jump out in the first 40 games and they're 30-10, right? You got
right,
some room to wiggle.
right.
But if they start out 29 and 12, or I'm sorry, 29 and 11, 28 and 12, and the Padres or the Giants or any of those teams are right on the
Yeah,
tail,
yeah.
you're pressing
It's
too much.
Well, and look, you got the Giants, I think overall got a little better. The D-backs got better. The Padres probably did not get better. They probably took a step back because of some of the pitching they lost. But they still play tough. They still hate the Dodgers. So you're going to get, and look, you're the world champs. You're going to get everybody's best shot. Especially when you go into their building. And so it's going
100%.
to be rough. So hopefully we can avoid major injuries and any problems there. And like you said, hopefully they can jump out to a decent record to start through the first 30, 40 games and give themselves a cushion so that he again, Dave Roberts can play around a little bit, move some guys around, give guys a day off here and there. Um, keep people more fresh. And again, if we can stay healthy, that's one of the big advantages of having too many guys at some positions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
100%. 100%. So, yes, that that can be what I'm going to argue is the rough go,
yeah,
right?
yep, I can see
Um,
that.
yeah. And so I've got one other Dodger topic for you, and then
Okay,
I'm gonna ask you your opinion on something that may change the trajectory of this show
okay,
because I have a sneaky suspicion I know how you're gonna feel about it,
okay,
but I'm just gearing that up. So for the next
okay.
5 or 7 minutes, let's go through one last thing. The Dodgers had a lot of these guys had really good springs. I don't play into numbers in spring. What
Nope.
I look at when I'm looking at spring, I'm looking for the most part, I'm looking for guys who are going to break camp, working on getting their timing back, working on letting the ball go deep, different things like that.
Right.
I for guys that aren't going to break camp, and frankly, if you're not going to break camp with the Dodgers, uh, if you're not already on that 40-man roster, you're probably not going to see the MLB this season unless somebody gets hurt.
Right.
Hunter
Right.
Fiducia, you're going to have a shot to come up, but it's going to be if somebody gets hurt. Uh, you had a great spring. Good for you. Sorry, you're not coming up.
Yeah.
You know, David Boat or Bot, however you say that. I am so sorry, but Freddie Freeman is there.
Yeah.
You're not coming up. And Kiki can play there. Max can play there. I apologize.
Yeah.
Couple guys though. Teo Hernandez 9 hits. Tommy Edman 8 hits. Kiki 8 hits. Austin Barnes 7 hits. But then you get into some of the guys like Max 3 hits. Ouch, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Andy Paez 5 hits. James Outman 6 hits. Shohei 6 hits. So, I mean, how much weight do you put in on this?
I just don't want to, I don't want to let myself put too much weight on it. And like I said, I just feel like people overreact because you don't know what little things they maybe were tweaking, right? Like we know professionals, golfers, they're the worst at tweaking their swings, but these guys in baseball, they tweak their swings all the time. And when they usually tinker with it is in the off season, leading into spring training and into the season, trying to do something a little different, trying to make themselves better. Usually is what they're trying to do at least. So I just I don't want to put too much stock into it. Um, I worry a little bit more with Max when it's only three. Um, but you know, I just I don't know. I feel like I just feel like we're like I said, the eyeball test and what I've watched, over the last week or so, um, which isn't a ton. It's not like I'm watching every pitch of every inning of every game, but I just feel like they look like they're good. And look, we'll get a good shot early at what's happening on next week after St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And hopefully anything that's glaring they'll be able to address between that time and the 27th, and they'll have at least 3 games to get the Angels to get back more timing and stuff and get over their jet lag from flying halfway around the world. Um,
The only ones that bother me, the only statistic that bothers me, and I agree with you here, is this statistic. James Outman, 15 strikeouts. Max Muncy, 11 strikeouts. Hansong Kim. I don't put too much weight in him because this is his
right,
first season in America.
right.
10 strikeouts. CT3, 10 strikeouts. Michael Conforto, 9 strikeouts.
Mm.
Teo, 9 strikeouts. The one that shocks me the most, ready for this? Austin Barnes, 3 strikeouts. Three. So
Well, they
again,
need
these
to
guys are
start
working on
drinking
different things.
whatever Austin's drinking. The rest of
Yeah.
those blokes. Yeah, that's one that scares me too because that was kind of one of the calling cards and has been of the Dave Roberts era to me of the Dodgers is guys not striking out as much. Guys getting deep in counts and battling and working walks and so hopefully they can get that ship righted. That scares me too. I haven't looked deep enough at that stat, but yeah, you just
Max,
and look, with a guy like Max Muncy, it's kind of a strikeout or home run situation anymore. So you kind of live with that a little bit. But yeah, that's one thing that I mean, I remember watching the World Series and the announcers talking about talking about that it's so hard to get the Dodgers out because they all battle so well and put bat to ball
Max
better than
Muncy,
anyone.
19 at bats, batting 158. James Outman, 28 at bats, batting 214. Now, James Outman is fighting for any place to play.
Right. And I
Um,
was going to say, as just a pure Dodger fan, the Outman one doesn't trouble me as much because if he's just not cutting it, he's not cutting it. Go. go work on your swing in the minors, and we'll see if we need to bring you up at some point. Um, but yeah, Muncy, he's going to be the starting third baseman, and he's going to be right in the middle of that lineup to start the season, and so you really need him to get things figured out here quick.
Very quick, very quick.
Yeah.
So, okay, before we get into our last segment of the show, again, we just want to thank Drunken Gentleman Clothing Apparel. We want to thank Ruby's in Laguna Beach, and we also want to thank the Inland Empire Dunkin' Donuts. These guys are what keeps Top Band going. We love it. We appreciate them. Okay, Scott, I've got to. I hate doing this, but I have got to mention this. Tony Clark, the MLBPA rep,
Yes.
makes a comment that he thinks that unless things change, he's expecting a strike after the 2026 season. Scott, your first initial reactions to this, I've got mine, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. But what are your thoughts here, my friend?
Fire Tony Clark. Like, are you kidding me? Baseball's finally built its brand back and is looking to be better than the NBA. Like, you're literally gonna I get so tired of the greed that is going on from both sides, but a strike is not the answer, morons.
So here's
He
the
better
thing.
just be he better just be my real initial thought is he better just be using that as a negotiating tactic to get the
Mhm.
owners to the table. He better not be serious about that because that would absolutely
Yeah.
look, people are already looking for, different things to do. You're killing your own sport if you
Mhm.
go on strike again.
Correct. Correct. So here's my initial thought. I'm hoping that Tony's using it, and I said this on the weekly review
Ugh,
with Jackson. I'm hoping that Tony is using this as a negotiation tactic. That's what I'm hoping.
me
If
too.
he is, good job, Tony. Um,
Ugh,
but Tony Clark does not negotiate like some other people that are in business that
yeah,
make insane amounts of money. Here's my issue, Scott. Okay, you're gonna love baseball. I'm gonna love baseball,
right.
regardless. Okay, but when the cost of eggs go up, the cost of milk, the cost of gas, and we're watching player contracts. You and I
Yes.
remember when A-Rod got a 10-year, $200 million
Yeah.
contract with Texas, and we thought, oh my gosh,
The world was
$200
ending.
million,
Yeah, the world was ending. We were like, this can't be real.
right?
Yeah,
Um, and Juan Soto is getting $51 million this year
I
and
know.
$51 million next year. In
Ugh.
2 years, he's going to make half of A-Rod's contract. That being said, with all those numbers going up, if in fact you're threatening a strike, you are effectively going to lose your fan base
Yeah.
because think about it. You have a daughter, right? For you and your
Yep.
wife and your daughter to go to a Dodger game, even if you sit up in the upper seats,
Right.
and even if you're sitting on the first base side where you're in the sun the entire time, you are still looking at 30 bucks a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's $100 to get in. Parking's 30 bucks.
Yep.
You're now looking at about 150 bucks just to get in and get parking. You're
Yeah.
gonna spend well over $100. You're
Oh,
gonna get a
easy.
couple of Dodger dogs, couple
Yep.
of whatevers, right?
Yep. Probably
So
my daughter's gonna need a new hat, maybe
exactly,
something else, maybe a jersey, maybe a jacket, who knows?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you're looking at this and you're shaking your head and going, okay, this is a 200 to $250 excursion for a
Yeah.
family of three. Imagine if
Yeah.
it's a family of four or a family of five.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Just and I think you're right on where you're going with this is that these guys you're going to lose us because you're splitting hairs over millions of dollars, and it's like,
yeah.
look, do we go to the stadium because of the owners? No, but at the same time, they're the ones who put it on the line. They're the
Mhm.
ones who put up money to buy these teams. That's just the way it operates. It's a free market society. That's how we are. I mean, look, and don't at me with antitrust stuff and the government and MLB. I know, but the point I think everyone knows the point, and
Yeah.
it's what you're making is that when we're struggling to make ends meet, the last thing we want to hear is that you're going to strike because you need more money. Because guess what we know as fans? We know that if they start paying you more money, that just means my tickets just went up another 5% next year.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
concessions probably went up in price. Now you're going to
Yes.
charge me $50 for the fitted hat instead of 45,
Mhm.
you know.
Correct. Correct.
So,
And what exactly? And so when you have millionaires arguing with billionaires,
uh,
it it's a different story because your market is, I mean, Scott, I can remember growing up and going to high school. I can remember my junior and senior year. I didn't have, we used to call them periods, and I don't know what, nowadays,
right.
but I didn't have what they call the fifth period. So if I didn't have baseball, I was out of school by 11:30, back 11:34 to be exact.
There you go.
Back in
There you
those
go.
days, Anaheim Stadium was a 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
As a bird flies, probably a 10-minute drive, but the way that you had
Right.
to get, anyways. So if we didn't have baseball practice, we were out. Back then, Wednesdays were travel days. They would play a Wednesday afternoon game and then
Mm-hmm.
fly to the East Coast. We could get in the stadium for $1 up in the nosebleeds and then work our way down throughout the stadium.
Right. Right.
Uh, you can't, even the nosebleeds at Dodger Stadium are, some of them are 26, 28, 30,
I
depending
know.
on who the teams are.
I know.
And so if you're going to threaten a strike, you better be prepared. So the only thing that sold or saved baseball, in my opinion, the 94 strike happens.
Right.
95 season starts late.
Yep.
Doesn't get a lot of love, doesn't get a lot of love in 96 or 97. It was the home run chase with
Yep.
McGuire and Sosa that brought everything back to life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
are we
You
going to have to
you
wait five
had
years?
that home run chase, and then shortly, and then you had that the Yankees Diamondback series that
Oh,
was a
one.
week late because of 9/11 that year. And though to me, those are the two things that really brought baseball back. Even for me, I had drifted away as a huge baseball fan. It just had,
Mhm.
like you said, they had the strike in 94. The 95 season started late. I was a junior and or a junior and going into my senior year of high school. It just was, yeah, that is the worst thing they could do is go on is strike. And the sad thing is like you said, hopefully it's a way to get the owners to the table, but the owners know we can't, and maybe that's why he's doing it, because the owners know they can't afford a strike.
Yeah.
They're scrambling to keep going. I mean, look at what's happening to the NBA lately. It's going in the tank, and MLB's like, let's at least keep ourselves ahead of the NBA.
Yeah,
So
100%. And
I hadn't
again,
heard that, and now I want to call Tony Clark. I don't have his number, so I can't, but I want to call him and say, Tony, come on, man.
hey, Tony, if this is your negotiation tool, man, love it. But let's hold off a bit before we start getting too crazy and too silly, right?
Yeah. So the
Um,
26th, so not this current, but the next season is the last one on the CBA.
correct,
It expires
correct.
after 26. All right. So we got a year and a half.
Yeah, and honestly, I really do think that Tony Clark is trying to play it a bit, but
Yeah.
we'll
Still
see.
hate to see it.
We'll see. Yeah, oh yeah, you
And
hate.
I always hate when guys try to negotiate in the media. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well,
Like, come on.
that's that's not where you negotiate
No,
things, right?
no.
Yeah. So, all right, Scott, we got to wrap up. We've done
Okay.
we've done our best to update you as best as we can with the Dodgers. Hopefully, you stayed with us. We first of all, we got to thank Bleacher Brothers Radio Network. If you're listening to this on Bleacher Brothers Radio Network, we are so grateful. We're grateful for AJ and the crew over there. They are great guys. Be prepared. I'll be on their show here pretty quick, as will Scott. We'll get Scott on there. Um, if you also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, we thank you. Appreciate it. Feel free to leave a comment. If you're not listening to this on YouTube, but you're listening to this on Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, make sure you're following Top Fan. There's a lot of good things happening. So,
Yeah.
Scott, anything you want to say as we wrap up, sir?
No, just I'm excited for it's frustrating as it is that next week's the season. The next time you and I talk, we'll have actual real games to talk about. So both past and coming up very quickly. So
Yes, sir.
I'm actually pretty excited about that prospect. So no, that's my just let's go Dodgers and let's go baseball. I'm so happy that baseball's back. It's always that precursor to spring. We're back.
Yeah,
Spring's
100%.
back. Baseball's back. Let's do it. Can't wait.
Let's do it.
Go
Let's
Dodgers.
do it.
Go Blue.
Go Dodgers. All right, everybody. We sure do appreciate you. Again, we thank our sponsors. We thank everybody for everything that they're doing. And we are looking forward to the season starting apparently in like a week and a half. So go Dodgers. Go
Go
baseball.
Dodgers.
We're back. We'll have a lot to report on soon. Talk to everybody soon.